Johnathan Torres, North Georgia United. It's good to have you with us today. I've been looking forward to talking to you, especially with the season just a few weeks away. But to get started here, Johnathan, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role with the club.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me as well, Andre. It's great to be here. And yeah, so with me, I am the owner of the club. I, slash CEO. I run the background operations of, what goes on, like, preparing for matches, training sessions, events outside of the club, getting us involved with the community. But yeah, that's part of what I do. Initially, we started this club back in 2022, right, in April. And the whole story behind it is I used to play UPSL, right? I used to play for Georgia Storm back when they were still in it, right? So
Yeah.
I was driving 2 hours to practice and then 2 hours back home, right? So 4 hours, 3 days
Wow.
out of the week plus the match days, right? So going into my third season of UPSL as a player, I thought about it. The big question, in Calhoun, there were several players at my level, right, or even better that could compete in UPSL, but they couldn't make that travel for 2 hours there and then 2 hours back, right? Or some of them don't even have rides, right? And it just came to my mind that, okay, I have players in this region that want to compete or in the same situation like me, but they're not able to do so because it's just so far, right? So I just thought, okay, what if we brought that here to North Georgia, right? And initially UPSL, a lot of the teams were down south, right? Atlanta or Carrollton, very far locations, none in the North Georgia region, right? So that's when it came to mind, okay, let's create a team in North Georgia, right? And I think at that moment we were one of two teams in North Georgia, right? When we popped in, so it was great. I mean, our that was what we did, the pool that we had of players coming from Atlanta, Tennessee, Chattanooga, North Carolina, South Carolina. It was huge, man. So to see that not only people coming from Calhoun and Rome, it's coming from people that drive like at least like 2 hours now, right? So it's been fantastic. The community we've been building so far. Right now, we're in I believe our fourth season, right? Fourth season of
Coming up.
UPS.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
time
That
flew,
goes
man.
fast. Yeah.
Time flew. But yeah, no, I mean, ever since it's been fantastic. We our especially social media, right? We started with about in the beginning it was 300 followers, and those were kind of like close friends and all the people that supported us, like me and my friends, right? And then next thing you know, now we're sitting at about 7,700. We just hit that number today, so it's going great. It's going great. We just want to keep on climbing up. We want to keep on providing platforms for players. Last season we had one player go to Guam national team, right? Play in World Cup qualifiers.
Wow.
Before that, we had one player go to Barcelona, Spain for college, right? But he mainly wanted to do that to go play on a Spaniard team, right? So
Right.
things like that, and also our very first season in play, one of our players, Hugo Martinez, right? He signs a pro academy contract with Chattanooga FC, and it's just amazing stories that you love to see, right? It's the reason why we do this, right? It's the passion we
Right.
have, right? We want to get players to the next level, whether it be college or pro, right? Or a better team. Let's go from
Right.
there, right?
Yeah. I mean,
That's yeah.
yeah, that kind of that alludes to something I always ask everybody, all the coaches and even the players that we have on the podcast. How important is it to have a league like the UPSL when it comes to players trying to get to that next level? Because I think it's well known about the youth system in America has been broken for a long
Mhm.
time, and I don't think that's in dispute. And so there's been like sort of a dead end, a wall that a lot of youth players hit where they're on a great club team or school team. They get out of college or they get out of the academy system, and there's nowhere for them to go. What's the difference being in the UPSL that you've seen with your players? You mentioned them, going on the Guam and going to Spain and places like that. Does this kind of help them get to that point?
No, absolutely. This definitely does, bridge the gap that some players are unable to cross over, right? Because for sure there's some players that I've seen throughout our time in here, they get overlooked, right? And it amazes me. I'm like, man, you got the quality that I think you may even have, better talent than some players on the pro teams, right? But they just get overlooked. I mean, there's so
Yeah,
many players that have that same dream of going pro, right? And it's unfortunate it happens. And it will happen. So this right here, the UPSL does provide the platform for those guys to have that chance that maybe they didn't have, maybe going to college when their time was over with that, or even high school. Some people don't go to college, they don't get scholarships, right? Or they don't make the team when they try out, right? So
right.
this is their chance to go make something of themselves, right? And fortunately enough, this league, it's depending on where you are. It could be very, if you're a local one, it's easier for you to access. It's easier for you to come to trainings, this and that, right? And not only that, it's not anything too crazy with expense wise. At least for us, right? We try to make
Mhm.
everything as affordable as possible. And UPSL, fortunately, the way it's set up, it's able to provide us as a club a platform to be able to give these players an opportunity to explore this option, right? As it's like I said to you players, like you said too, going down this road of professional soccer, US soccer alone can be very, very challenging. You got to get your CVs, you have to do resumes for that, you have to send emails, networking, and alone it's so many hurdles that you have to go through. And don't get me wrong, you could go down that road. It's just going to be very difficult. But as a team, and if you have the right people and you have the right culture, as a team, you could climb up that soccer ladder a lot easier. You could get more visible. Like for instance, I mean, there's plenty of teams that went to the national final with UPSL, and that one or two people that shined in that final match, they get trials with Premier League, right? I think that was that story not too long ago that guy from forgot
Was it
where it was.
Florida?
Yeah, West Florida. He goes
Yeah,
and now he's with Man City, right? So
yeah.
it's always like that where if you work together collectively as a team, and you operate your club the right way to have these guys succeed, that one match can change a life or lives, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely interesting. I love the way that the league is set up, and it's definitely something you don't see very often, especially with relegation and promotion. There's not really any of that in US, and I believe UPSL is the only one that implements it, right? So
Right,
it
yeah.
it keeps the clubs on their heels, right? Because nobody wants to get relegated, right? And that's how it should be. It needs to be competitive, right? Competition is good.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny, the thing that you said, running a club is not very easy at all. And we just talked about how it's a platform. It's a pathway for these players to go from, you know, sort of the serious amateur to the, developmental professional. However, you as the owner of a club, you're involved in coaching and everything that goes with managing a whole club. That's not the only goal that you have at North Georgia United, because there is the competition itself, right? So you mentioned, promotion and relegation. Teams have to go that way. They start in Division One, and to get to Premier, they have to earn their right to get up there. How difficult is it to balance out those things? Because over the past 2 seasons, we've seen your club, like in the spring of 2023, you finished sixth and you
Mm-hmm.
made it to the playoffs and narrowly eliminated in the first round. And so the thought is, okay, next season, bam, we're going to go to the next level and everything. But it didn't turn out that way. And so you missed out on the playoffs, but there are things that happen between seasons with personnel, with injuries and things of that nature. Can you go into a little bit the challenges it goes, not just developing players, but also competing against the Atlanta United academies, against Dalton United? Now we got Georgia Revolution coming in, pretty much very professional teams. And can you go kind of allude to the challenge that you have there at North Georgia in dealing with that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great question because as you saw in the spring, we were doing fantastic. Top six, first time in the go around in the Premier was great, and everything was looking good. We made it to the playoffs, right? And then come fall season, it was a little bit of a rockier road because during the spring season, you see a lot more college players come out for those teams, right? And that's where you
Yeah,
see. For me, I feel like the competition is the toughest during the spring, right? Because you have all these players, not just your club that's bringing on college players, it's all these other teams, right?
right.
So coming into the fall, you have those college players going back to college, and now you have your, players that are in your Division 1 team. You're gonna have to move them up there, are not used to that type of competition. Yeah, for sure, you have some players on the first team there, are still there, and but it doesn't have that same chemistry like you did whenever it was in the spring, right? Because again, Premier and Division 1 are two different animals, man. I mean, you definitely see it. You definitely see it, and anything can happen. I mean, you saw with Atlanta City last season, man. I mean, they came from
Yeah,
last the playoffs to defeating everybody, man. They were at one point.
definition of an underdog.
Oh no, it was phenomenal, man. And you love to see stories like that, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anything can happen. Anything can happen. And in that scenario, it was our first time doing Premier in a fall season, right? So it just, with that, it was more of getting those players accustomed to the competition and getting them up to par. And it's not, and not only that, we did face injuries, right? We had like at least 10 injuries, man. So you had to put players in positions. One time we had to put our big striker in center back position, man, because I mean we just had to plug and pull him, man, and it was tough. It was tough, but fortunately we survived, right? We
Right,
survived.
yeah.
That was one of the goals. I mean, that we saw was that, okay, we can't really bring on too many players. There's a roster freeze. We have to work with what we got, right? And we made it happen. We survived. That was great. Now this season going in, we want it all, right? We want to win the championship. We want to win the regular season. We have the people and the players to bring forth a great season, right? To be honest with you, Andre, I want the national championship. That's it. That's something that everybody wants, right? I know, and then that's something that again, last season we would have loved to had something even better, but it was just something that I guess we lived and we learned, right? Now we know, kind of how to structure our club a little bit better going into not just this season, but also this upcoming fall season, right? We're preparing for it more better because there will be, those players will return back to college. So we still want to compete at a high level to, make it to playoffs next season, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was definitely a rocky road. It was tough, man, because when you lose so many games in a row, man, and at one point we were at the bottom of the table, right? And morale, when it drops down that low, it's super hard to bring it back up. But that's just part of our culture here. We want to just, we try to keep everybody together. We want to make sure that everybody's, got each other's backs. And whenever you hit those lows is when you really see the true character of everybody. And, thankfully we were able to, we had the right players and we made it out, right?
Yeah,
So
right, right. So if anybody wants to follow the progress of North Georgia United, they do have a website, North Georgia United was it northgeorgiaunited.com, right? Let me
yes,
make sure. Let me look at it right quick. Yeah, northgeorgiaunited.com. And of course, you're on all the social media, Facebook, I guess Instagram as well. And
yes.
so you can always follow them there. And just one last question. We talked about the fans and the league and everything. Trials for players that may be looking in at the first time, say, hey, I live in the Calhoun area. I'd like to play for North Georgia. What can they do? I've seen there's a link on the North Georgia website where they can click on to apply for a trial. Are trials still ongoing? Is that something that'll go through the season? How does that
Hmm.
work for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So usually, whenever before the season starts, we do at least like 3 tryouts, right? Regular tryouts, where you just will have a bunch of players come in on one day, and we'll do the regular trial process like every club does, right? Now, when it goes into season, we will start doing in-season trials, right? We'll start that up pretty soon. But just for right now, what we're doing is just getting those players that we have right now accustomed to each other, and really once we have the ball rolling going into the season, then we start getting those in-season trials because again, there's gonna be injuries. It's better to prepare now, but then like 10 days before the roster freeze, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely we've learned from our past, and what we're gonna do is just keep on improving from there, right?
Great, great. Well, I can tell you, I'm the conference manager. It's been a joy having you in the Georgia conference here, and I also work with Atlantic Soccer Media Group. We're going to be doing a lot of your games this season. So even if players or fans can't get to the games, they can watch you online, and we'll have some highlight packages done for them. So it's going to be a good season to learn about your team, I think. So I want to thank you. Johnathan, for taking some time out to talk to us, tell us about your club. We definitely will be talking to you during the season and look forward to seeing what you can do. Can bouncing back from last season and seeing if you can get to that national playoff.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much again, Andre. Again, like like you mentioned, everything is if anybody wants to continue watching our journey. Instagram is probably our strongest platform we have right now, but we do have Facebook, we have YouTube, and like I mentioned to you earlier in the other days before, we're gonna be doing a kind of like a short film movie, right? People got to stay tuned for that because it's gonna be a little bit Atlanta soccer media in there, so it's going to be fantastic. I love to bring the fans behind the scenes with us. It's going to be our first time people see, a little introduction of me, the rest of our staff, who the players are, into the lives of, what it is to be a UPSL soccer player, right? Because
Right.
it's not just,
Awesome.
it's not all simple, right? There's always a story to everything, and that's what we love to tell is stories, right?
Well, look, that's another thing to look forward to. I'm sure we're going to be sharing whatever you're able to produce there. So we look forward to that and the season. So again, thanks again for taking the time out, and we'll see you at the start of the season.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andre. I appreciate it.
Uh,